Hello everybody, this is Danny and Wanda from Deep South Homestead. Guys, we're here today because we feel like this is urgent. We want to take the opportunity to spend a few minutes to share some things with you guys. In lieu of our country being attacked this year in 3 different ways, we had our gas system was attacked this year, our energy system has been attacked this year, and now it has been our food system that's been attacked this year.
And we wanted to answer some questions that we get asked all the time, our 2 most important questions that we get asked. And so the first one is, what are we going to do with all this food that we grow and we put up? How many people, I guess with that is how many people are we feeding and all that. All these questions come in under that one question. What are we doing with this food that we're growing?
And that's a very good question. And what we're going to talk about here may shock you. First of all, we have 2 videos, I believe it is, already. Mm-hmm. We have one about what does it take to eat, for us 2 now, for breakfast. For breakfast for a year, and then for dinner for a year.
Well, dinner and supper are combined for a year. And I'll try and link those in the cards. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when we say cards, there's a little info, a little eye pops up, and it'll say the name of a video or it'll show a video. You can stop the video you're watching and click on that and go to it. Or when you finish watching a video, you can run it back and click on it.
And it's in the upper left-hand corner, and it may not show up on yours, but you have to hover over it. Mm-hmm. And when you hover over it, it will actually appear and pop up, and you can click on it. So
those 2 videos will be in the cards.
Yes. Now, let's just talk a little bit about what does it take to feed me and Wanda for a year. On average, Wanda and I have sit down, now this is an average. Now we eat a lot of fresh because we've learned to eat in season. We don't eat fancy.
So the one thing you should do is eat in season as much as possible when you're raising your own food. But this right here, how many jars do we figure?
Wanda and I figure we eat somewhere, and this may shock you now, but we eat around 1,200 jars of food a year, the 2 of us do. Now that's a conservative figure. Now that's not going out there extravagant. That's very conservative, and it doesn't include any kind of specialty stuff that we like. Say for instance, we open a can of jelly, a jar of jelly, relishes, or stuff that we don't just eat all the time. The 1,200 jars is jars that we eat on a daily basis. Now we've sit down and done the math, and we've kind of figured it out. We eat about 3 jars of food a day. Yeah. And we just did the math. I mean, 3 times 365. I mean, we've been keeping up with this now for a long time.
And a lot of you'll say, I never could eat that much. Well, we do not go to the grocery store and buy food like most people. I don't go out and eat either. I mean, there's one thing we don't do. So if you figure out every time you open a can of soup, a can of beans, and I'm talking a tin can, or a can of pork and beans, or whatever
you eat, whether it's Progresso soup, I mean, whatever. If you open a can of Progresso, you get potatoes, you get carrots, you get English peas, you get meat, or whatever type of soup it is that you get. All that has to be added into your daily consumption of vegetables. Or if you go out to eat at lunch during the day, and you go to a fast food restaurant, you get French fries or a baked potato.
You have to add all that up per month. And let me challenge you. For 1 month, write down everything you eat, whether it's a snack, your breakfast, lunch, what you drink. Write it down for 1 month. At the end of the month, sit down and figure out how many potatoes. Because on an average, if you bought French fries, that's a potato at least.
1 to 2 potatoes at a time.
And you can say, okay, I use that. Instant potatoes, we don't make instant potatoes. We don't get hash browns and tater tots and all that stuff.
We don't do the French fries, tater tots,
we don't buy frozen stuff like that.
No.
So we have to have fresh potatoes. And in with the fresh potatoes comes the canned potatoes, and I have to figure out how to make those work like you would if you go to the store and buy them. And most people buy a bag of French fries a week.
A week, at least.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
at
don't
least one.
have enough for a year in your freezer. Just think how many, if you bought one bag a week for 52 weeks, you got to have a freezer that will hold 52 bags of French fries. If that's what you intend on eating and that's what you eat per year, your freezer has to hold 52 bags of French fries. That don't include anything else you need in that freezer. So think, if you stored up food for 1 year the way you eat now,
yes,
what you would have to have and how you would do it. So write down what you did all month and multiply it by 12 and see how much food you would need for 1 year buying things the way you are buying them now.
and don't forget things. I mean, the thing about it is, people today, they go, well, you know, we ate at McDonald's. They don't count that, or they
picked up a candy bar.
They picked up a candy bar. They don't count that. The candy bar had peanuts in it, a lot of them, or has something in it. You know what I mean?
You
chocolate,
ate it.
and you ate it.
If you pick up a coffee, write it down.
Write it down.
Even though you can't grow coffee, we don't grow coffee. I have to buy my coffee. But it takes a lot of coffee per year. If you figure out how much coffee, you say, oh, I buy a bag of coffee and it lasts us 6 months. Okay, it might, but how many did you buy away from the house?
Right.
You have to include what you did away from the house in with what you do at your house.
Cook at the house.
Yeah, because I had a lot of people say, I buy one bag of Irish potatoes and they'll go bad before I use them. And when I asked them, I said, how many times did you make instant potatoes? How many cans of soup did you open like Progresso? How many hash browns? How many tater tots? How many times did you go to McDonald's or wherever? How many times did you go out to eat and you ate a baked potato?
Or you ate mashed potatoes or potato salad. I mean,
you've got to add that up. And so that's what we're trying to get you to see today when people ask us, what do you do with all that food? We eat it.
We eat it.
We have a lot of food here. We feed 2 people basically.
Yeah.
Now, our kids come by occasionally.
And we give them stuff when they come by. We give them potatoes and right now it's blueberries. If they want blueberries,
they get blueberries. Yeah.
We got tons of them. But that's, guys.
Tomatoes, when tomatoes in season.
When tomatoes come in, we always have
cucumbers, whatever we have excess, then and our kids come by, that's what we share with them. And peppers, last year I gave one of my daughters a lot of peppers because we had more peppers than we knew what to do with.
Yeah.
And there's only so many peppers that we can eat. There's only so many tomatoes we can eat. And if we grow excessively, then yes, we share those with people. But are we growing to feed a lot of people? No.
No.
Just the 2 of us.
No, that's all figured in with our gardening each year.
And our fruits.
Well, yeah, our fruits, our figs, things like that. Nature, apples, whatever
Yeah, and now we're into the meat. The meat has been the one thing for the last 5 years that we have been very slack on. 1 year we'd have rabbits, 1 year we'd have chickens, and
we always had to buy our beef.
And we've always bought our beef.
We've never had to buy pork because we've always had our pork, but we've had to buy our beef.
Some of our chicken we've had meat birds, but for the most part we've had to buy chicken.
Yeah.
And so now we're working toward the meat part, and in doing that we added 2 ponds. So we feel like we could eat fish several times a week, probably starting this summer because our fish are getting big enough. And fish is very healthy for you. And we have our cows. So from this point forward, we intend to have our own beef. And chicken is something that we have our chickens. So when we rotate out, we would have chickens.
And 2, we're probably going to build a pig pen and probably just get 1 pig a year and not have to try to raise a bunch of them.
Yeah. We want to keep it at a minimum where we have what we need, but yet we are keeping ourselves going and we're not overworking ourselves. One thing we found was when we had we had goats, chickens, turkeys, pigs, rabbits, and cows.
Yeah, all of them.
Well, we started the cows after we got rid of the
Yeah, we
goats.
actually got rid of the goats.
So we had 5 different types of animals at one time going. It was working us to death. We were spending all our extra money on feed, and it just wasn't benefiting.
We realized we only have 10 acres, and we realized on 10 acres that's not sustainable. So we figured what takes the least amount of work. Number one is chickens. Chickens takes no work whatsoever.
And we eat a lot of eggs.
And we eat a lot of eggs. And cattle. Cattle take virtually, once you get your infrastructure in, you just fertilize the fields, you get your hay, little bit of feed every now and then just to keep them tamed down and make them do what you want them to do. Other than that, and minerals, they take care of themselves.
And keep your animals to a limit for your property.
For the size of your property.
We are at a max with our cows now.
Yeah.
From this point forward, we will be getting rid of our cows. We'll be selling them, or we will be butchering one for ourselves from this point forward, because we're at a max with our cows. We don't want 100 cows running around here. 8 is our max for this 10 acres.
For 10 acres, 8 is our maximum.
And chickens, we've got 12 or 14, I don't know. That's more than enough chickens for us. We don't need 100, 150 chickens. There's no sense in it. We couldn't give away the eggs if we had to.
We actually are freeze drying a lot of our eggs now because we have more than we need. So when wintertime comes around, we will have our freeze dried eggs whenever they slack off.
Yeah.
We'll have our freeze dried eggs to fall back on. It's all about planning. And we haven't talked about this, but I was sitting here thinking while you were talking, if we had to say on a weekly basis what we spend for groceries, or what we would spend at the grocery store on a weekly basis, I doubt.
What we would spend.
Like we are right now. What are we spending now per week? If we don't go every week, but if we did go every week, well, how much money would we be spending at a grocery store right now? And I'm thinking it would probably be more like, what, $30, $20 or $30?
If you're talking about, I buy in bulk, and I buy up a lot. So if I had to split it over a year and break it down to a week.
You think $30 a week?
Maybe.
Maybe. I'm thinking it might be maybe, and that's including like dishwashing liquid.
Well, if you include all that, I would say 40 to 45.
About 40 to
all
45?
Of it together, maybe. But Wanda takes and does a little bit of junk stuff. So that taking that out would bring it back down to the 30.
Bring it back down to the 30. Because I was just sitting there
because I do like a bagel and a loaf of bread occasionally.
Yeah.
And time you add that in, if I cut all that out, but hey, I like that. But time you add your coffee, your salt, your flour, your sugar, and we usually do specialty stuff, like Danny needs the almond flour or something. We have things that cost more.
But we buy in bulk to knock the price down.
But it still would cost more than the average person would spend buying a cheap regular.
Yeah, because we don't buy cheap stuff. That's one thing about us, where we don't buy the cheap stuff, we buy the good stuff. And we still get by with, like you said, probably around $30 to $40 a week. Now, how many people out there can say that $30 to $40 a week is what they spend at a grocery store? And like I said, we don't go every week. We might go once every 2 to 3 weeks to a grocery store.
And then we buy like very limited stuff because I buy in bulk.
Yeah.
If we go to Walmart and I run through there, say maybe 3 times a year, I will pick up 5 or 6 things of dishwashing liquid. I already have some here, like 5 or 6, 7 here. I don't even know.
We keep a stock of
that I buy up 5 or 6 more. And if I do that every time we go, like 3 or 4 times a year, I will buy up several.
Yeah.
I do that with washing powder. If I go in a store and washing powder's on sale, and I usually catch it $5.99 or under. And that's the ones that usually run $7.99, $8.99. I catch them for $5.99. I'll buy 2 or 3 of them so that I have a stash. I used to make my laundry detergent, but the price of all the stuff to make it had gotten so outrageous, and all the boxes had shrunk down. So it's cheaper for me to look for sales, and it would be for a lot of y'all. And the way you eat, if you don't have this canned stuff, look for sales. Don't just go buy the most expensive thing they have.
No.
If you like Progresso soup and it's usually $2.59, look for the sales. When it goes on sale for $1.29 and it's usually $2.59, go buy you 4, 5, or 6 and instead of having to pay
And
the high
let me
price.
say, brand names don't mean nothing.
Not no more.
Doesn't mean nothing, because I went to a sugar factory one time where they were making sugar, and they were running the non-brand bags through there, the Piggly Wiggly bags and stuff like that through there making sugar, and right behind it was Domino and all the other ones. I mean, it's all the same sugar going through the thing. One of them, I mean, that just blew me
Lots
away.
of things are that way. So sometimes when you're hung up on a brand name, you might go do some investigating
Yeah.
and see where it's packaged and how it's packaged.
Who owns it?
Because it might be that Great Value and something else are exactly the same, just processed in the same factory.
Yeah, they just put a different sticker on it.
So,
So that's probably our number one asked question
yeah. And
about.
the other one was, how do we get so much done?
Yeah, that's.
And so we want to take just a brief thing to tell you how we get things done. Number
Well-
one, we get up early.
Well, I was raised old-fashioned. Wanda and I were sitting on the porch just a few minutes ago, and something hit me when she was talking about. She said her dad used to get up every morning. The radio would wake him up, and he would listen to all the obituaries and the swap
school
shop and
lunches.
the school lunches, and also he'd know whether or not to leave money for the kids to get something to school because he knew what they liked to eat for lunch. And that dawned on me while we were sitting there. First time in my life, and I'm 60-something years old. It just hit me. I told her, I said, Wanda, I just realized something. I never woke up to my father being home, except for sometimes on Saturday, always on Sunday, but never any other day of the week. My dad rose at 4 o'clock in the morning and was gone by 5. It hit me. My kids never woke up to me being home in the mornings, except sometimes on Saturdays, and on Sundays I was always home.
Except when you were hurt.
Except
when you were down and had to stay home.
when I had to stay home or something because I was in an accident or something. But other than that, my kids, their whole entire life, never woke up with their daddy being home. Because I always rose up between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was gone by 5.
So Danny gets up early,
Yeah.
and the point is, he does his special time. Then he gets up, he gets breakfast. He always has made breakfast.
I
since we
always
got
fix
married.
breakfast since we got married.
And then I get up. We take care of our business on YouTube and stuff like that. We see what we have to do there, and by 6:30 to 7, we're done out the door.
And we've been
He's
out the
done
door.
fed the animals.
I've done, yeah.
We are in the garden. We're taking care of things, or if we've got a project, we're working on a project. By 7:30, we've been out for about an hour.
Yeah.
And most people are still in bed at 7:30 or just getting up.
Just getting up, getting ready to eat. And by 9 o'clock, most of our, especially in the summertime,
Outdoor stuff is done.
most of our outdoor stuff by 9 to 9:30 is done.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, I either move over to working in the shop where I'm out of the sun, or I'm doing something else where I'm out of the sun. Wanda's in here, like today, she was under the garage out here, canning in the canning kitchen. She, canned several canners of food because it was pouring down, raining, and between rain, I'm on the Ranger running back and forth doing other things, trying to take care of projects that need to be done. Got a gate that needs putting up. I'll do it till it rains, and I run back if it's coming bad weather. I run back over here and sit on the garage with her for a few minutes, or either I go in the shop and I'm working on a project in the shop. I don't waste time.
That's one thing we've learned is, for the most part, we're busy. That's why we have the off-grid cabin. At some point, we do need our downtime.
Yeah,
And what we do is we just say we're going to the cabin.
that's it.
Because if we don't and we stay here, we work.
We'll work till 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night if we stay here.
Yes. We find out that there's either dishes got to be washed, clothes got to be folded, YouTube's got to be taken care of, Etsy's got to be done, banking's got to be done. Danny answers questions and takes care of stuff. There's always something if we're here till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So some days we just say, enough's enough.
Enough's enough.
And we take our break, and we do, and we are human.
Yeah.
we are human. We have to have a vacation. Yeah.
My dad told me I was a machine when he raised me. He said, son, you're just a machine. Just keep going.
But we do go 90 to nothing. And the people that have come here and visited with us, they see that we are workers. We manage to get our own work done. We do it ourselves. We don't hire out, except for the roof.
No, we did hire the roof.
Most things we do ourselves. There will be limited things that we do hire out. But for the most part, this is what we do with our food. This is how we spend our time.
Yes. Guys, that's just basically it. I mean, the old adage, the early bird gets the worm, is a lot of truth to that. You know, I mean, Wanda and I, this is 7 days a week. We are up at that time of the morning and out the door 7 days a week. You know, I mean,
because our animals need feed.
You
can't not
feed your animals. You know?
The greenhouses have to be taken care of. We have a lot of people say something about greenhouses, and a lot of you get into the greenhouses, the high tunnels, whatever you want to call them. They are an all-day job.
Yes.
You can, not that you got to be in them all day, but you have to be here. You have to make sure they're open, that they're vented right, that there's not too much heat, or you need a fan on.
Too much humidity. I mean, you got
to. They need water.
Every hour or two, you've got to at least do a walkthrough every hour or two to see what's going on in that high tunnel or greenhouse and make the adaptations for it. You know, do I need to turn the circulating fans on up top? Do I need to make sure the vents are open? Do I need to turn the big fans on? Do I need to water? Do I need to fertilize? Do I need to open the doors? Does something need picking? Do I need to let the pollinators in? You know, what are we doing? I mean, it's a constant, every day, 7 days a week job.
And so if you're thinking of high tunnels, that's another thing, you know, just know that you're not going to put a high tunnel up, throw some seeds in the ground, and everything's going to magically appear and grow and produce. It doesn't happen that way. It is work. Just like anything else, it is work. And so I guess what we're saying is, look at your food supply, look at what you eat, make mental notes, and think about what you need for a year. And start gradually putting some of that aside and stashing you something. Whether if you can't can all this food, at least be buying something, because our food system is going wacky.
It's fixing to go down. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to come out and say it.
We're worried that y'all are sitting there going, but I can go to the grocery store. You might can, but that dollar that you spent today may not buy what it bought
yesterday.
Today. When you go next week, it may be $5.
Right.
Things are going to escalate.
Or it might not even be there.
Yeah. And if you're one of those that I've got to have this, this, and this every day, next week it might not be there. So what are you going to eat? And you need to think of these things.
That's where we're at. Because of my health issues, I have to have certain things in order to keep me physically where I can go like the Energizer Bunny. And we have to make sure I have at least a year of that on hand at all times in order to stay physically fit to be able to do what I need to do.
And guys, we just want to encourage you to store up, pay attention, watch not necessarily the crazy news, but watch.
Well, it's on
what news should you tell them to watch? I mean, that's kind of hard to say.
I'm not going to tell anybody what kind of news to watch, because I watch
a variety of news. Put it that way, a variety of news.
Use discernment. Right now, the meat system has been hit hard, and what did we hear today? It was 25 or 35% of the world's meat.
I think it's 23% of the world's meat has been compromised. Okay, that means that we have a lot of meat around the world that won't be available soon if something isn't changed pretty quickly, like now.
And we have ranchers and cattle people, you know, that send this, that I've read in their comments that said, look, They called me today and told me, don't be sending any more beef to the feedlots. And here I am, I have all these cows. Now what am I going to do? I don't have feed to feed them. You know,
and the truckers can't get the feed there.
Yeah.
Y'all,
So,
we're getting in dire straits with some of these, and
Yeah.
I feel for the ranchers, I feel for the farmers.
well,
and
the thing about it
truckers.
is, the present administration that we're under now is actually paying a lot of farmers not to plant and
Not to raise
what they're
animals,
supposed to raise.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so you need to be looking at what you eat. You need to
Yeah.
see if you need to make adjustments, and we're just trying to encourage you, not to scare you, but this is what
Yeah.
we do.
Right.
And we know people can't do what we do, but you need to think of your situation, what you need, and have it on hand. At least, I guess, if you can't have a year's supply, at least have a month's supply. Do something.
And I want to throw one thing else in before we get off of here. Wanda and I were talking about this today. Because of the last video I done talking about free lunches, we come to the conclusion we're afraid that, and when I say we're afraid, it's not a fear. It's a
That's a
figure
figure
of speech.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that what's happening to the kids at school with these free lunches is that the government is stepping in and making free lunches readily available. And in the free lunches, they're putting the fake meat, they're putting all this stuff in there, getting kids used to already eating the things that are not good for us.
That they're going to be using in the future. The kids are going to be used to it.
They're already going to be used to it.
So how many of you asked, what is my kid eating at lunch? You don't know for the most part.
You need to be asking your school system, what are you feeding my kids in these free lunches? Where are they coming from? Is it real meat? Talk to them. Is it loaded with soy? Because, guys, if you do the history research and go back, there was a point in time where the military fed their military guys saltpeter, and that was during the Vietnam era and even later than that. And then a lot of your prisons are feeding saltpeter to the prisoners and stuff like that because it feminizes the men and they're less aggressive and where they don't, not violent like they need to be. And they don't tell anybody this stuff. They just do it. And we need to check and see what we're actually consuming as consumers, whether it's our children or whether it's us. So I want to throw that in right there at the end. So guys, we didn't want to make this video too long because it's getting pretty late in the evening already and we still have a lot to do. So I want to tell you, we appreciate each and every one of you. That's why we do these videos, because we care. And we don't want to see anybody have to do without in what's coming, because we've already been hit 3 times. And guys, the new war that America will be facing may not necessarily be fought militarily. It may be fought through a hacking and taking down our infrastructure through hacking because of technology. So guys, thank you once again for taking the time out to watch us. And if you haven't subscribed, take the time to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that when we put a video up, you're notified, because we're only going to try to put up videos we feel like are beneficial to what we're going to be facing in the near future. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.